US President Donald Trump is making use of the coronavirus pandemic to achieve one of his top policy goals, cracking down on immigration.
In light of the attack from the invisible enemy, as well as the need to protect the jobs of our great American citizens, I'll be signing an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration into the United States.
Travel into the US has been virtually impossible since mid-March, with border restrictions and flight bans put in place to keep the virus out. But Trump says a more permanent move is needed to protect jobs. Nationwide lockdowns have brought much of the world's biggest economy to a standstill. More than 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment benefits in the last month. Another 4.5 million jobless claims are expected this week. That's why his government has set out a plan to reopen the economy.
At a time when millions of American workers and families are struggling with the financial consequences of the virus, it's critical to continue the medical war while reopening the economy in a safe and responsible fashion.
While many Americans are in favor of restrictive measures to limit the outbreak, supporters of the president have held rallies from coast to coast.
The recovery rate, they said, is about 98%. And well, why are you shutting down the world over this? This is craziness. It's crazy. People will starve. They'll commit suicide. They'll lose everything over this. I mean, the cure, like Trump said, the cure cannot be worse than the disease.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo believes it's too early to relax restrictions.
Question for us is, are we past the apex? You don't need protests to convince anyone in this country that we have to get back to work and we have to get the economy going and we have to get out of our homes.
But Cuomo says far more testing is needed before it's safe to do so. And as some states, including South Carolina, are starting to gradually reopen businesses this week, health authorities have warned of a second wave of infections. The US has the highest rate of COVID-19 infections in the world. Trump's critics say that US policies should be based on public health and that banning immigration won't make the US safer. Sibel Karkus, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, Laurence Kotlikoff joins us now from Boston, Massachusetts. He's a professor of economics at Boston University. Welcome back to Money Talks, Laurence. Now, as we heard in the story there, immigration into the US right now has largely been halted thanks to these various restrictions that are in place to curb the spread of the virus. So why has Donald Trump decided to announce this proposed travel ban or immigration ban now?
Well, I think a large part of what he's been doing has been driven by politics, not by what's needed for the economy or for the safety of the workers. So this is all part of his long-term scheme of trying to cut off the U.S. from international trade and to blame our problems on immigrants. It's going to be very difficult for our agricultural sector to operate without migrant workers coming in to help pick the crops. So we're going to, he's really worsening the problem. And we already have, because of restrictions on people flying into the country and cargo ships docking at our ports, we're really trying to get to his ideal, which is no trade with anybody outside the U.S. And then we're moving in the direction of no trade between states because the states are heading towards cutting each other off because we don't have a national policy about dealing with a virus. So if we did have a national policy, that would not come into question. In the end, I've also seen certain towns, like some parts of Long Island, are not letting people from New York City come into, or at least talking about not letting people from New York City come into those parts of Long Island. This is going to end up with, in the extreme, when he goes back to live in the Trump Tower, the only people he can trade with are people down his hall. It's ridiculous.
Now, you mentioned the agriculture industry. As we know, there is this ongoing labour shortage already in that sector. A lot of farmers are already heavily reliant on a guest worker program. So if this immigration suspension does take effect, could it potentially affect those farm businesses and more broadly food supply?
Yeah, that's a major danger. We already today we had I think one of the largest meat packers of pork. I think they produce 10% of the entire U.S. consumption of pork. They shut down because of people getting infected in the plant. This follows on at least one or two or three other major meat packers. So we're going to have a shortage right away within a week or so, I'm sure, of meat in the country. And now we're talking about probably shortages of fruits and vegetables. And then you have concerns about, truckers. Do they want to drive into New York City and potentially get infected going to New York City? Maybe their unions will tell them, we're not going to do that. We need to keep you safe. Better you become unemployed, because the way Congress set up the unemployment legislation, a lot of people actually make more money being unemployed than being employed. That was really a ridiculous way to set up the policy. So there's so many mistakes being compounded on top of others. This is just the latest mistake of this president, who I think is a very stable moron.
We also know that the lucrative tech sector is also highly dependent on foreign skilled labour. How might a temporary immigration ban affect that industry?
Well, that could be a major thing. We're already facing the potential for foreign students not being able to come, graduate students in sciences and economics and statistics and in computer science coming to the U.S. this fall, because universities may be shut down again because of federal policy not getting control of this. I mean, if you look at the difference between Germany, the way they're handling the problem, and the U.S., yeah, there are demographic differences, but they actually have cogent leadership. So yeah, we could have a big shortage of high-tech workers coming through the system. May not happen right away, but over time. And of course, you can operate with people abroad via the internet. My small software company, I'm a professor of economics, but on the side of a little personal financial planning software company, we hire somebody in Romania, and he's terrific. So it is possible to get skilled people that way.
Okay, Laurence Kotlikoff in Boston. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you for your analysis as always.